Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. It's like a book club for music. It's all about sharing and growing your horizons and whatnot. I am PD Rave, and here with me is my triumvirate, my team, my squad, my gang. We've got David Majors.
Buenos tacos, muchachos. We survived the last episode.
Yes. We've also got Drew.
I don't know why you're scared of Taylor Swift fans of all people.
Because they're the Borg, Drew. They're the Borg. They are a giant, ultra-powerful collective of destructive power the world has never seen.
And we have a guest for the evening. We have a friend, Drew. Why don't you introduce us to our guest?
Well, this is an old buddy of mine. God, we go back, what is it now, 15 years?
Ooh, 2000, what, 10, 11, something like that?
I don't know. We've recorded together, made gross and painful foods, did way too many push-ups in weird parking lots, but a friend of mine who's now lived in what, 4 states, Jason Kovach.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank
you for being with us. You have also brought for us, Jason, an album that we're going to be talking about. Why don't you tell us about it? What have you got for it? What have you got us listening to? As I walk away from the microphone, what have you got us listening to?
All right, Tay Sunday.
So the album is called Suburban Legend by a band called Durry. They really blew up on TikTok during the pandemic. It's a brother and sister team. They do pretty much all the songwriting and everything, and they blew up and had to end up coming up with a full band and album, and now they're touring all over the place and getting featured on ESPN, NHL, doing a whole bunch of stuff. So
yeah, wow, dope stuff. Let's talk about expectations. David, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
I hate this question. I'm going to say it every episode from here on out. I had the expectation that it was going to be something that focused on the life of suburbanites from the Midwest and the ennui that grows within.
Drew, what expectations did you have coming into this?
Well, the only ones I had were the ones knowing sort of where Jason lives musically. I knew that the production was going to be off the charts. I knew that it was going to be well thought out, but I didn't know what area of alt rock it was going to come at me from. Jason has been known to like himself some proggy stuff. He's been known to like himself some hardcore stuff, some pop punk stuff. So I knew I was going to get something interesting and something well produced, but not sure what corner of that milieu I was going to get.
Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly what it was going to be like. I from the album cover and from the name, I figured was going to be something indie, something maybe pop punk, not unlike like a pew 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 like we talked about before, or kupu 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 as P-Lander Yellow once said while introducing them. So I kind of figured there was something similar to that, but yeah, I was intrigued to see what was coming to me. Yeah, Jason, why don't you let us know? Well, how would you describe this album musically?
So, I mean, I feel like it definitely has a good rock feel to it, but a lot of the song structures are very familiar with like pop type writing, So like strong verses, great build-ups, and then like super catchy choruses. Like almost every song on this album has a very catchy chorus. I'd say it's very much like a pop rock type of album.
Yeah. David, how would you describe this album musically?
I would describe this album musically as a pop rock / pop punk album for people who don't like pop rock and pop punk. And that should give you an indication of my conclusion at the end of the show.
Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, to me, from the jump, there was an energy that reminded me of a band I wish I listened to more still, and probably should. Not the tone. I think the singing is better, but the energy and feel of that, like almost old school sound turned new, of the Strokes from back in the day. There's a lot of indie feel to it, a lot of 90s college rock almost, in sort of its attitude. In the, like I said, the well-produced nature of it, I knew was going to come in. But that old school turn new was really, really what got me. The lyrical content and the focus, sort of knowing that it was made in a basement during COVID, and sort of the history behind like, the fall apart of a previous band that sort of I should get into more. The Coyote Kid stuff, it's right up my alley. But I just haven't for whatever reason. But knowing that past and knowing what I know from them and hearing this, I feel like it was fun to me because I drew a parallel from, I'm going to pull something out that I do sometimes a little bit to pop David, but also because it's true. Hearing the last sort of stuff from Coyote and then this reminds me of hearing the last stuff from At the Drive-In into the Mars Volta, and hearing the parallels from the old to the new was a lot of fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. It is very like everyman indie rock, pop rock, pop punk. It is something that its central aim is to be anthemic and relatable. It is.
God, at times that it hurt how much that was true.
It is, and we'll get to some of the key tracks, but I have some moments. It is that it's definitely like anthemic sing-along choruses. There's varying like tempo and energy, but it's all supposed to be like high energy. It is, and you can imagine how, since it was written during COVID and during lockdown, like it's almost like it was written with the idea of like, oh my God, one day when this is over, we're finally gonna be able to play in front of people live. We're gonna like play music people live, and it's all made with like that hope in mind, from a meta standpoint. And I think it works well. I think it works well in that regard. It mostly like hits and does all that well. It is like, it has those like higher tempo pop punk moments. It has those like those very sing-alongable choruses, those sing-alongable breakdowns, and like punchlines almost in like, even like in some songs we'll get into that, but like it's almost like if you're at a concert, you're supposed to be the other Beastie Boy, but everybody's supposed to be the other Beastie Boy for the end of certain like verse lines, in a way. But yeah, I think it has that like kind of like everyman Midwestern energy, which I have no relation to, considering I've lived all my life in Miami, Florida. But like,
But the rest of us do.
I was gonna say the three of us have experience, and you're not incorrect.
Yes,
Spot on.
yeah, it's spot on. And I think it was very, very intriguing, and it's very fascinating to like get into that. And I want to get into tracks right away. Let's get into tracks now. Jason, what would be some of the key tracks for you and why?
So I would say coming of age, like right off the bat. I mean, it's very kind of like you said, like working man Midwest, like white collar anthems really is kind of like the whole feel of a lot of the songs. But I think coming of age, just musically, like there's a lot of dynamics to it. The chorus hits hard. Who's Laughing Now, I think, is one of the first songs I heard from them. And I mean, I know like the first line about not getting a job if you get a tattoo, you know, like I'm covered in tattoos, you know, so that one's super relatable for me. Yeah,
I've got me and all of my amazing tattoos.
Rave
I was gonna say your mom wasn't super thrilled about
right
all the tattoos.
No, especially when I started getting them like all in my hands and everything like that. So, you know, but
I want more tattoos.
it's what it is. TKO was a great one as well. I'm Fine, a little bit lonely, but it's really a lot of them just because of the same thing. Like you can relate to whatever situation they're talking about. Pretty much, it's like whether it be a nostalgic thing about like your past or something you're going through right now. All of those songs kind of hit a lot of those things for me, and I think, I mean, like Drew mentioned, the production especially is one of the big things because they released a lot of these songs as singles originally, and then they came back and released the full album. And the one thing that they did was really kind of up the production value on them, and I think a lot of those songs really benefited from it. So,
yeah, kind of getting in there and like, okay, this is the final version. This is the
Yeah.
this is the real version. But yeah, David, what
Yes,
would be
Petey?
some of the key tracks for you?
I'm going to start with Worse for Wear. The lyrics are great, if a bit blunt, on this particular subject matter. I do like a little more flair instead of just saying the thing. That's generally how I feel about lyrics in general. Be a little weird. Be a little esoteric. Don't just say the thing. Make it a little interesting, but it gets the message across. The first three songs get the point across, and I want to applaud Mr. Durry for, among anything else, I want to thank him for not having the nasally pop punk voice. I'm just going to say it. I despise that. I despise it.
Fair.
And
Fair.
it makes, and Austin Durry's voice, his vocals, make this all the more enjoyable to listen to front to back. And when you have an album where you enjoy the singer, that just gives you extra points. I'm Fine. No, really. If anyone hears this song, I want to tell them I'm on 2 medications that I take daily. I'm still me. You'll still be you. I promise. If you're not fine, take your meds. You'll still be you. It will not shift your personality. Losers Club. Loved the chorus to this one. Absolutely fantastic chorus. And lastly, Trauma Queen. And I think this was the track that I think really put it all together. And the latter half of the album is full of hooks, the latter half. I thought the lyrics were a lot more interesting rather than just saying the thing. and another really strong chorus in Trauma Queen. I really think that this was the song on the album that really put it all together.
Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, I do it a lot, but I'm doing it again. The bounce, the staccato guitar, the layering of the vocals, and Coming of Age as a first track let you know from the jump what you're getting into. Who's Laughing Now? It being sort of the lead in to this band, sort of the first song that came out. The knowing that the artistic pursuits were worth it, but still self-questioning if they were worth it. God, do I know the feeling sometimes? It's a simple bass line. It has sing-along parts. Like Petey said, you're almost expected to be the hype man Beastie Boy in the back, like screaming tattoos at the top of your lungs. It makes sense. It all like just fits. I'm fine listening to this, knowing that it was written and recorded sort of in the thick of the pandemic. I don't want to say during, knowing people were still out there, but in the thick of it. Also, it does a thing that was really fun. It has the normal, like the shuffle drum pattern, the like shuffle, like punk rock, like sort of Irishy drum bit. But then just as you start to notice in the second verse that they had switched that snare pattern that's almost always on snare to the toms, and then they just, right as it hooks in, you realize they switch back. That was really cool to me, and it made me chuckle a little bit. I was like, oh, that's a stupid joke. Like that's funny. And then Mallrat, which, spoiler alert, I have a fourth song, but usually doesn't happen unless the ending is going to be what it is. But this song, to me, something about Mallrat, like, screams Reggie in the Full Effect in some of the best ways, and I'm completely okay with that. As we all know, I love Reggie in the Full Effect, but
yeah, I think you guys covered a lot of stuff, but wow, was those sounds words? I don't know. I think you guys covered a lot of the tracks. I digress, but there's if you watch enough of my content, there's a reason why in high school, one particular person called me Mumbles. I swear, how do I podcast? And I'm like, I can't make words. You guys covered a lot of the tracks, but to double back, Who's Laughing Now is the big breakout hit. But it for a reason. It's very like sing-alongable. It's very anthemic. I wanted to point out one of the great lines on there, which is "I'm just as broke as the day I was born," because I wish I was just as broke as the day I was born. God, to be net zero would be amazing. I'd be like, oh, shit. Man, to be net zero? Hell yeah.
We all got medical debts somewhere.
Yeah, like, I wish. But that was a good moment. TKO for just like being a something I know nothing about, which is dating, but not just dating, but dating above your weight class. Which is a really fantastic song.
It's hard.
Yes,
it's very hard.
Mallrat is definitely teen nostalgia coded. It's like the modern day summer of '69. Like, but instead of for boomers, it's for millennials. It's like a summer of '69 for like millennials rather than boomers. So it's like about your teen years hanging out at the mall, like, which is a really fantastic. And then something like Suburban Legend, which was one of the tracks that kind of brought that higher energy pop punk sound, which was really fantastic. And and it has been covered. It's really fun and really kind of brings the vibe forward as really well. Let's bring it back around, talk about some conclusive thoughts. Let's start with you, David. David, what were your conclusions on this album as a whole?
I really enjoyed it. I think it checked all of the boxes. The production was fantastic. Whomever mixed and engineered this album, 5 stars. You could hear everything. Austin Durry's voice, again, he's great. The snare drum had a pop that I really liked. The bass was good. The guitars were in the perfect spot in the mix. They were loud, but not overpowering. Just extremely well done recording and production. No notes. There is still a little too much of saying the exact thing lyrically than I like, but I'm going to let it go because the album as a whole was really well done. Every song is really well written and really well composed. There are hooks everywhere. There's great guitar riffs. Again, I really like Austin Durry's voice. And from top to bottom, I would probably say that this is the most I haven't enjoyed an album in this genre probably ever. And I got nothing but good things to say about it.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
It's one of those things where this is not what I was expecting, but also perfectly encapsulates why, like, me and Jason can talk about music at all. It's something where it was very smartly put together, but it let itself play in its simplicity at times, but also, like, they have an iPhone fucking alarm in a song because, like, oh, it's a reference. I mentioned this in the Discord, but, like, some of my, like, favorite funny stuff is just, like, random samples put into songs. A band that this man, I don't know if I'm pointing to him on there, but I am on Skype. This man put in was a Star Fox reference. Like, that kind of stuff always gets, like, a chuckle out of me just because I imagine, like, the nerds in the studio just sitting like, hey, what if we just put a mic up to this thing and make this weird thing a part of it? Because I've sat in with this idiot doing that. It's stuff that I'm excited to hear more from this band. I would like to go see them live if they ever come through Ohio. It makes me, like, want to go back to Coyote Kid, knowing that they're basically the thing I like about, like, a Go Bordello, like, the weird theatrical nature of it, but more smoky, violent movies instead of, like, gypsies, which I can get down with that most of the time anyways. It's something that I hope these guys continue to find success, and there's another album coming, even if it isn't recorded in their parents' basement, because they're trying to figure out life during a pandemic.
This album is really tight. I think, like, that's really
Toy.
tight, like a toy.
Like a toy.
Really tight, really
Like a good snare drum.
Exactly. It's well made. It has a lot of, like, the like pieces that really fit together really well. And, like, come back to the voice, as David pointed out, the Austin Durry's voice is fantastic for a couple of reasons. It's very more. What the hell? It's much more
Take a breath,
indie, indie voice, indie male voice, indie mask voice, than it is, like, pop punk voice, which is fantastic. I think there's, like, aside from, like, he does the indie vocal, the vowel thing, the indie vowels, which I think at this point everybody is. I feel like his voice has kind of that right emotion Because it's one of those things that when David talked about the fact that his voice is like not the annoying voice you expect from pop punk, it kind of like also brought up the other idea for me, which is one of the things I like to do is I will go on Spotify and I will just play the all new rock playlist, just because like I don't know what's in there, but let me just play it, let me just check it out. And I usually find a lot of gems. I usually find, not all of them are winners, but I do find some gems. I do find some fun songs. Either that or like New Blood is really fantastic for like heavy stuff. But one of the things I found is I tend to want to skip almost all of the bands with male voices, and tend to gravitate toward the femme voices. And I think, and this is just a theory, a game theory. This is just a theory, but I think it's because dudes who get into bands are doing it to be cool. So mask singers, not all of them, but a lot of them try to sound cool. And there's not as much emotion, where like you have these femme singers who are just out there singing like they're gonna punch your lights out and they're pissed off and they're like fucking, they have that energy and the emotion in their voice that I kind of gravitate towards. But what I like about this, Austin Durry is a mask voice. He has that emotion, like he has that like that energy. He is not just some dude trying to sound cool, like I'm a rock star voice, or I'm like an indie cool guy. He has that like gravel in his voice, and that passion in his voice, which I really like. So that was the thing that like came up written down. But aside from that, this is just a solid, tight album, really well done. Also, this album, not everything is on there, but this album is on Freegal. Shout out to having your album on Freegal, which the music service you can get for free for having a library card. So check that out.
I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah, Freegal is a free gal. Is a music service. It doesn't have everything Spotify does, but if you have a library card, you can get.
I have a library card around here somewhere. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Just to poke at it.
Yeah. But yeah, just that was just a dope thing. But yeah, last but not least, Jason, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
And so I feel like, a lot of things you guys have already said, but I feel like it's one of those albums, especially, at this time, like the millennials, I think, are really going to relate to it a lot, especially like whether it be in the past, like Mallrats, like your childhood, that kind of thing, growing up teenager, and especially in the Midwest, a lot of relation there, going up to now, like with the workforce. So it's one of those things where there's a lot to relate to. The music is great. The production is amazing. And to touch on what you said, Drew, about seeing them live, I saw them live last year and they were spot on, like as good, if not better than the record, which not surprised, but
some bands can't do it live. As a fan of punk rock, that happens a lot.
Yeah,
I just thought of this. Another song. This could be like the Jack and Diane of millennials. We have sucking down pizza slices at the Chuck E. Cheese.
I think we have a show title.
Go ahead, Jason. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, but I think it's just one of those albums, and and being a musician myself, I can really appreciate like all the work that they put into it, especially in like the lyrics were you could tell all of them, they were very personal, very relatable, and I don't know, just like top to bottom, the album is great. It kind of checks all the boxes. Like for me, like Drew said, I'm kind of all over the place as far as it comes to music. Like I listen to I listen to probably more pop punk than anything, but I do listen to a lot of heavier music too. But a good vocal and good production is really what it takes for me to want to keep listening to it.
Amen.
Yeah, and this album, like front to back, it just has all of those things. And there's not a more deserving band. Starting on TikTok just for fun, and it's kind of blowing up and taking it for what it is. So it's
Another, I think this kind of been like our return, Record Breakers return. I feel like has been the story of talking about the TikTok breakthroughs, which is honestly I love
TikTok breakthrough, Taylor Swift.
Yes. Yeah. Aside from that, but yeah, let's get down to the nitty gritty. We got our main event now, our main event of the evening, the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's get down to it. Haiku numero uno. We're at Haiku Reviews. David, what is your haiku?
Outstanding debut. It's almost timeless pop rock. Durry raised the bar.
Drew, what is your haiku?
The bar. Sorry. It's a bathroom. The bar. A new indie band from a familiar face. Want to see them live.
All right, I got my haiku. Anthems for growing up and not figuring it out. Chocolate pretzel friend. And last but not least, Jason, what is your haiku?
So I have white collar anthems, strong vocals, catchy lyrics, top tier production.
Nice.
I concur.
Yes. And those are our thoughts on Durry's Suburban Legend. You can, of course, find it on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Do your due diligence and your due diligence. Before I move along to my pick for next week, this is my album. Jason, let us know what have you got? What have you got going on the internet? What have you got going on? What are you working on? Where can people find you?
Oh, so I am a co-host on a podcast called the Midwest Sadbois podcast. That is it's a weekly podcast every Wednesday, new episodes, kind of talking about anything and everything. You can find us on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all the podcast platforms. That's kind of the main thing I got going on. I've got a lot of music all over the place. So if anyone's interested.
Yeah.
I will also say I always try to support friends in their artistic endeavors. A lot of times it is a passing, hey, this is cool, like go do the thing, and I'll post it a couple of times. Jason will tell you I will regularly hit the microphone in my car and yell at him about things from the podcast. It is a funny podcast. It is two friends who have known each other longer than I have known Jason. I'm pretty sure you've known Jim most of your life at this point. So it is the two friends that like made each other laugh. So they decided, fuck it, let's put microphones in front of our faces and do that thing. So if you're into that.
Yeah. And I can appreciate that you're at the road stage of your of your microphone career. I'm still on the AT 2020. I'm gonna get there eventually.
A road mic in this economy.
Hey, do what you gotta do. I mean, got the I got the Rodecaster Pro 2, the hot mic.
God,
impressive. I respect it.
I'm dreaming of getting a Rodecaster Pro, but I might just get a Rodecaster Duo. But I would love to do a Rodecaster Pro because, like, from what I can see, it's basically a better Go XLR. But that's enough gear talk. Podcasting gear talk.
I was gonna say we can take that to the Discord later.
Exactly. But yeah, thank you, Jason, for being with us.
Absolutely.
And next week's album, let's talk about next week's album, where we're gonna be, it's just the three of us again. We're gonna be talking about an album that I've got picked out. It was one of the two options I was debating for when I come back, but I kind of went with the Joey Valentin Bray instead. We're gonna talk about somebody who, speaking of breaking out in a viral way, somebody that broke out in a viral way on social media back in let's say 2011. Had their moment in the spotlight, with all the good and the bad of it, especially young, took it in stride, made the best of it, grew up, tried various things, and then got back into making music, grew her sound, her career, started working with people here and there, kind of like adopting some hyper pop and like sound as different communities. We're gonna be talking about somebody that's something that will surprise you. Something that will surprise you. I know who this is.
Can I guess?
We're gonna guess.
Is it Rebecca Black?
Yes, we're talking about Rebecca Black's album "Let Her Burn."
Yes.
All right.
As soon as you said hyper pop, I was like, hyper pop 20. Oh God, this is Rebecca Black, isn't it? This is Rebecca Black, because I remember seeing her come up with her hyper pop shit, and I'm excited.
Yes,
I'm pumped.
It's something to look forward to, because I think you're gonna be I think people are gonna be pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed the album, and you're gonna enjoy it. I think
Spoiler.
People are gonna enjoy it too. But yeah, that is it for us. Look forward to that next week. That is next week. Let me cue the music again. That is next week, and this is this week. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet at recordbreakers.fun or recordbreakers.gay, at rebelli.net, of course, for all the other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and Twitch. We watch us live for not just this podcast, but for our GM mode streams. Through the tomes, we're kind of like working on some stuff with that, but we'll still have that in some form in the future. But look forward to that, and all other stuff that might come up with all the other projects that I've got noodling around in my brain in 2024, because I've got some ideas. But yeah, that's on Twitch at Rebelli TV. Follow us everywhere you find podcasts, Spotify, whatever other podcast services are still not shut down yet. I think it's still Pocket Casts, yeah. You can Stitcher, all those places. Check us out there. Listen to the podcast. Do all the things like, share, subscribe. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
A toodaloo.
Live long and prosper, babies.
Fighting.
Goodbye.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.